Hi, and welcome back. Did you review the notes from last week? Right? What did we talk about? First of all, we started talking about menus, menu styles. We talked about basic sanitation. I told you about saw the video on the dishwashing machine. We talked a lot about many different items. We talked about languages, all that other stuff. Please review all that stuff. That's very important for us. So when we get into the classroom, we can do it. As I promised before, we talked about knives and knife sharpening, and we're going to be doing that today. I got my mise en place ready to do it. Okay, as I said, two different types of stones. This stone is a bi-stone. There's two. It's a coarse side and a smooth side. And this one, which I'm very happy to find, is very, very smooth. This is what you really need for 90% of your sharpening. You don't really need the coarse. This one, if you have a really rough blade, you're going to be using that, but I wouldn't recommend it. Now, some chefs use oil on the stones, which is fine. If you go to a kitchen and have oil stones, that's fine. I like using water. Water's clean. Oil gets rancid. Rancid means spoiled. So I really do prefer using water because it's easy to keep clean and to keep it sanitary. Because oil, once again, is a product that can go bad. Remember the knives names? Right? This is a half tang paring knife. There's the rivets. Right? A tournée knife. Sharpening a tournée knife is a very difficult thing to do, which I will show you. After I'm done with these, I'll have my tournée knife ready. This one, remember, chef knife, full tang, bolster, rivets. This is our universal knife. This is what we'll use a lot. That's for sure. Sharpening steel, highly recommended you guys get one of these. This is a good length. Sometimes you can get these smaller ones that are a little difficult to use. These are very good at this length. You don't want to get too big either, but this is a good size. This is a good size. And then the paring knife. What makes it difficult sharpening a paring knife is obviously the curve. You can see that there. The curve is very difficult to get around. But let me show you that one first. Okay. These are all sharp. These knives are all sharpened now. They're sharp enough now anyway. So I'll use this stone, which I'll just quickly wet. And it's good to have a little water next to you. In case you need it. Okay. Put it on a damp towel so it doesn't slide. Make sure everything's clear. Nothing's around you. Nobody's around you either. All right. We'll start off with the paring knife. Hold it kind of like this, thumb in. Like this, bring it to the edge. Now, there's, once again, different ways of doing it. I prefer the draw method, which is from heel to toe, the whole thing. Now, once again, the person should sharpen your own knife. You shouldn't let other people do it because we hold it all a little different. We all have the different, you're supposed to have this 20-degree angle. Somebody be 21, somebody be 19, 18. It's best to do it yourself because you'll have, eventually when you do it, you'll get into the rhythm and you'll get your own angle. Some people do it this way. What we call Chinese style in America is doing it this way. I guess you could call it Asian, which it works just as well. Just make sure you get the tip. You rock it up, bring the tip, will turn it sideways. So you bring it this way, up, 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 up. What you have to do is you have to find the way you like it, the way you're comfortable with it. I've seen people use the side of it for knives, and they draw it this way. So this is usually generally really smooth. You do need some roughness. Pressure, you're not slapping it down. You're holding it fairly lightly. And same thing with the steel. People hold it too tightly. You kind of just draw it across. Here I'm using my finger to give it some support. The paring knife, once again, this is a little trickier. This the only way I know of it is you draw away, and you come back this way. Other knives you draw towards. Paring knives you draw away. These are very hard steel too. You can see the quality of steel of the knives is a little different. It's going to be kind of hard to see on the video, but you can see this is much shiny. This is a much harder steel, so it's much harder to sharpen. Chef knife, once again, same technique, right? You're going to, once again, whichever you want to do it. I do the drawing. When I use the chef knife, I usually hold it up like this. This is the way I do it. You get that nice sound. You hear that sound? Let me put on the coarse. You're going to hear the difference. Much deeper tone. I'm holding this keeping my fingers well below the stone level. So when I draw across, there's going to be no way I'm going to cut myself. If you're uncomfortable holding it, just leave it on there, and once again, draw across. Make sure you go heel to toe. Because a lot of times, guys, I see people do this. I don't know. You know, even strokes, even pressure. Move to the finer stone. Add a little water. Hear the sound difference on there. Then you go to the finer stone. And if your knife is in good shape, you don't have to, there's not a lot of work to do it. You really don't. If your knife is in good shape, you really just need sharpening steel, which we'll demonstrate later. The third, which is a very common but unusual knife that you see in the kitchen, is the bread knife. This is good for slicing a lot of, not just bread. This is good for slicing tomatoes because it does have that. If you cut yourself with one of these, it takes forever to heal because they rip. They don't cut like a knife. They cut like a saw. A saw, a taupe. You know, I've cut myself several times on these. Now, if you can notice too on here, they have two sides. This is the teeth on it. And then if you look at this side, it's the smooth side. So what you can do to sharpen these things is just draw lightly on the non-2 side. On the smooth side. And then on the 2 side, you take the steel. And you go up one by one. Okay. It takes some time. Avoid this. Because what you do, you're going to be wearing off the teeth, and you really don't want to do that. All you want to do is just true the edge. It's called truing. When you steel the knife, it's called truing. And on a microscopic level, on a close-up level, after you sharpen a knife, left, right, do it even, the blade itself, on a very, very, very small level, can end up like this or like this. We're talking very, very small level. But once again, what the sharpening steel will do will straighten that out and give you a nice, really crisp edge. It will be bent a bit when you do this. That's why this sharpening steel is a very important piece of equipment, because no matter how many times you use the stones, you're still going to need to use the steel. Okay? Now the steel. All right? Once again, usually that's a good length. I've seen smaller ones. These ones like this. That's for a knife this size, it's impossible. Yeah, a smaller knife would be okay, that's for sure. All right? But once again, the size of a chef knife would be good. This is a very hard steel. This is made out of extremely hard steel. They last pretty much forever. You have a guard. Yeah. That is the proper way to hold it. If you can look closely at this, you can see that's been hit a few times. All right, so you're gonna really make sure your thumb is well below that. You're gonna make sure your thumb is under there, not up here. If you do that, trust me, it's not a beautiful thing. Right, from the heel to the point. Right, it's a dropping motion. It's like a, and pressure too. Once again, it's not very hard. It's a light pressure. So you start there, and you really use your wrist and a little of your arm, bringing it down. Try, once again, this is there to protect you. Try not to contact it. Sometimes you hit, so you got to just be careful that way. I've seen students. Like, what are you guys doing? If you think about the principle of it, the whole basic of it, right? The idea is to take it at a very small level, left, right, center, and you got a sharp knife. That's a basic principle. So once again, loose. It's not a slapping. It's not a lot of pressure. It's hard to describe the amount of pressure in kilograms or whatever, but it's not a lot. It's not a lot. You don't want to do this. You're not sharpening it. You're truing the blade. You're just making that edge as straight as possible and as smooth as possible. You can do it, right? You can do it away. People are just more comfortable that way. There's nothing wrong with that. Larger ones, you can hold this way. Right? And you go down there. Whatever you're most comfortable with. I don't like. I prefer holding on to it. Right? Away, that's fine. I find it difficult. I find it the easiest way is here, drop, using everything in the wrist. Okay. So now we talked about knives, knife styles. We talked about sharpening. And like I said, I recommend getting these two items. If you don't have them in your kit, I really highly suggest go out and get them. Especially in my class, we use this a lot for. Like I said, we can go to tournée. If you have a tournée knife, that's fine. We can tournée with it. But if you have it, if you're going to purchase one, please purchase a paring knife. It's much more practical for everything you're going to use in the kitchen. More than that. As far as I know, they don't come with steels, but we really do need a steel. They're a very good thing. Okay. Once again, bread knives. Lightly sharpened. These things, once again, these things are dangerous. These are probably the most dangerous knives in the kitchen. They don't seem like it. They don't look like it. But I tell you cut yourself on these things. It takes weeks to heal. Weeks. Absolute weeks. They tear and not cut. Okay? But then once again, if you have any questions or anything like that, we can always converse through any method through school. Okay? That's Knife Sharpening 101. Thank you very much. Okay, now what we're going to do is talk basic knife handling. Okay, when we're in class, we'll talk about knife cuts, dicing, julienne, and things like that. But once again, I want this part is to show you basically how to hold the knife and how to use it. Okay, I'm going to be using the chef knife, and like I said, a paring knife is always handy to have. And once again, the sharpening steel. Now, if you focus onto the board, all right. Cutting board should always be clean. A good thing to do is to get a clean side towel, right? Wet it. Just damp it a little. You see how this moves? Stays much steadier, okay? Don't make it too wet because you don't want to get water all over the place. Western cooking, these three items show up in everything. Carrots, celery, and onions, right? The French term is called mirepoix. We use the term mirepoix. Depending on what you're going to do, a lot of times when I do chicken stocks and things like that, a lot of chefs, we don't peel the carrots. We do peel the onions. We don't peel the carrots. But in class time, depending on what we're going to be using it for, we'll peel it. Sometimes it's difficult. This is where a paring knife comes in handy. Right, a paring knife is good for cutting off ends. This is very good for stocks. Back to the board. These are very good for stocks. Scraping is probably the best way to do it. Yeah, you could scrape it with your chef knife. But if you can see how big this is, as opposed to something like this, it's much safer. And if you're in the kitchen working together with everybody else, it's a little safer. Best to do is 50-50. Half downward, then half the other way. Carrots are one of the most dangerous things to cut for several reasons. The roundness to it, and depending on what you're going to do, like say we'll take half here, and we're going to just cut a julienne. Cut a flat spot, let it sit, right? And then cut the size that you're going to cut it to. What I'm saying, what's very important is consistency. I don't like this glove. You get to this point here, don't try to cut that. This can be used for stocks and things like that. You get too small, too odd shape, you end up cutting yourself. All right? This is a nice, once again, you want consistency in shape, especially in class. Now, if you're going to do the perfect juliennes and things like that, you're going to take them and cut them squared. It's a very fresh carrot. If you notice too, cutting style too, I'm not crushing it. This is crushing. I'm kind of sawing, lifting the blade and going up this way, not just straight down. The carrots are very firm, so they hold up quite well. All right. Nice small dice. This has a high point. You can shave it off. If you don't cut it perfectly, just shave it off a bit. That's no problem. Square it off. A little big, julienne, but still, once again, fine enough. Something like this, you got to be careful about cooking-wise. Whoops. Simple enough. Once again, what's a good thing to do is save any of these things, especially in my kitchen. We're going to use it for stocks. Anything that's not perfect. Once again, I don't really care how perfect you make everything. You get consistency. You get the same size. I'm very happy with that. Okay? Same thing with that and that. Moving on. Celery. This is a key flavoring ingredient for most Western cooking, right? You guys generally don't like it. I've seen this as salam, served as salam. That's for sure. Right? So cleaning the celery, what you do is you pinch off these ends. Just the leaf part. Celery is fairly expensive in Korea, too. That's for sure. Pinch off the leaf parts, wash it. Now, I've seen some chefs here, a lot of times they end up peeling. Rarely do we do that. First of all, there's really no reason to peel it unless you're going to eat it raw for like dipping, crudités, things like that. So leave it like that. And again, let's just go with large dice. When cutting mirepoix, once again, mirepoix, when we'll do the video on stocks, this is perfect for mirepoix. Take these ends off. Now the big difference between Korean soups and Western soups is that everything should fit on a spoon. If you're having like gukbap or like shidegi gukbap, something like, a lot of times you have these things, you have long pieces hanging off. In Western cooking, everything should fit on a spoon. Especially when it comes to soups, everything should be that size. We don't really have it hanging over. So that's a big difference between the two cuisines. That's for sure. Moving on to the onion. Clean up a little here. Now, if you guys go on intern, if you guys go out on intern, most of the chefs I work with use the skin in stocks. I don't think it's very sanitary. It's obviously a lot of dirt in there. And then the chef says, "Oh, you boil it for 4 hours or 6 hours, depending on what you're making, chicken stock or beef stock." He goes to get rid of it. Still, I just don't find it very, very clean. But once again, if you're in the kitchen, the chef says, "Oh yes, of course, just cut it," and we just cut it in quarters. That's for the stocks. Making brown stock, I understand the sense of making brown stocks using this because it does add some natural color to it. Okay, but once again, what we're going to do is just fine dice an onion. Again, always good to put an edge on it. Now, when cutting onions, you should only cut your onions either last or first. But after you cut an onion, you'll see a lot of dirt and things go there. Root end, blossom end. Root end, blossom end. Very important to keep an eye on that. Just cut off enough just to show off the top. On the root end, just shave off the root. Leave that stem there because that's going to help you when you're doing fine dicing. Plus, you won't cry as much, so they say. This, like I said, a lot of chefs, this goes into the stock pot. I don't recommend it, but once again, if a chef says do it, you can see already how messy the cutting board gets. Once you get the ends, cut it, drop it. This is another point too. You'll see, you can even see here naturally, there's a lot of dark spots here. This is kind of been a little wet. You can peel off just the first layer like that. This is like unedible. It's like paper. But this is perfectly fine for stocks. Absolutely. It takes some time cleaning them. Not really. Yes. This is not for service, but for, once again, a little stock pot we got going on here. This is called mirepoix, and you'll see it later. Let's get have a video about that. When you're cutting an onion, as I said before, you do end up with quite a mess. So either cut them first or cut them last. Remove the brown skin. Avoid. A lot of students do it. I've seen it too. You have to spend time doing this. I've seen a lot of times students just go like this. And you end up throwing this in a garbage can. I've seen that a lot. No. This top part, yeah. This part can go in the garbage can. But once again, the second layer, third layer, it's all edible product and or stocks. So in my class, before you throw something out, ask me what we're going to do with it. Okay, take a look at that. Root end, blossom end, right? First thing I'm going to do is fine dice. These gloves only because I think it's a little more dangerous, a little too slippery with the gloves. Always use the steel. Always use the steel. So you got the blossom end. What we're going to do is cut down as close as you can down to the blossom end. Once you get even size, get to this end here, cut. You be very careful, and then bring it to the side. Kind of saw motion. Be very careful. You lose some pieces, that's fine. That will happen. Then, once again, using your hands here, use this as a guide. Cut, cut. Now you get down to this end. You can get 1 or 2 cuts out of this. And maybe one more cut like that. But when you get to this point, once again, mirepoix. You try cutting this down small, you're going to end up hitting yourself. You know what I'm saying? In most kitchens, this is quality mirepoix. This is definitely what you would use. Okay. So fine dice. Now, if you want to make minced onions, which once again, in Western cooking, we do a lot of that. Right? You can hold the knife here, holding and just rocking it back and forth. Minced onions are used for salads, salad dressings, soups, stock, sauces, and for sauteing, things like that. We don't use that much onions as you guys do in Korea. So we definitely have a tendency of chopping a little finer. If you want to really fine dice it, right? That'll make it really fine very fast. Okay. Sliced onions. Let's go for soups, sandwiches, salads. Cut it from blossom end to the root, but not through all the way. And just, once again, consistency size is what we're looking for. Get to the ends, lie it down, get one more cut, and then you can get one more cut this way. You get to this point, once again, mirepoix. Save that for something else. Okay. Different knife cuts, different purposes. Once again, what it is, in my classroom, don't worry about the sizes. If I say julienne and your julienne's a little big or a little small, that's fine. If your dice is a little large, a little small, that's okay. But what I'm looking for is the same size. That's what the key point is. Okay? Same thing with the celery, onions, anything else we're going to be cutting. It's what you want is really consistency in size. There's really no waste in the kitchen. In class, we go this stuff we throw away. One thing though that I didn't talk about though is that this does not go into stocks. I think you guys are pretty much familiar with the taste of this. I don't know, you ever taste that? I've had it with some. It's kind of delicious that way. But if you put it in a stock or a soup, it's very bitter. You don't want to do that. Personally, myself, celery, oh, it's a wonderful thing. It's such a key point in Western flavor. I know you guys don't like this. I asked you guys, even if I eat it like this, I go, oh, Professor, why are you eating that? It's delicious. That's why I'm eating it. I really do love celery. Basic knife cuts, once again, when we're in class, we'll be doing more knife cuts, more practicing, more cutting, that type of thing. Once again, if freshmen, if you're unsure, you don't know what to do, please come up. I'll show you. I'll show you once. I'll show you twice. I'll show you 3 times. What I won't show you is safety. You've got to be careful yourself. Okay? You watch out for your neighbor, too, because we're pretty close into class. We're standing pretty close. We got pretty big knives, so we got to be very, very careful. Make sure you bring in a side house. They're very handy to have. They're very good to use. If you don't have a steel, go get one. If you don't have a paring knife, please try to get these two items. If it's not in your kit, I'm not sure. I mean, every semester it seems to change. Once again, key point: safety. This is one thing. Kitchens are one of the most dangerous places to work, and things will not change. Things will always be hot. Things will always be sharp. Things are always going to be busy. That's for sure. People running around. Matter of fact, I've seen personally myself. I've seen a guy move a cutting board. Right? Like he's working in the kitchen. The chef says, "Oh, yeah, get work over there." I see him take his cutting board and take his knife and walk like this. Can you see that knife? No, you really can't. But look at that. Look how dangerous that would be, walking through a kitchen like this. So once again, if you have to move your knife. I said earlier, keep it down on your side. Don't put it on top of your cutting board and walk around like this. Don't. I've seen people do it in class and things like that. This is very slippery. This is not what you do. This is heavy, wet, and slippery itself. So if you have to move that, take your knife, bring your knife to the station, move everything else slowly. That's for sure. Safety is one thing for you and yourself. And key point I said too, if a knife is falling, don't catch it. Just step back, let it hit the ground. Nothing's going to happen. You're not going to break your knife. You're not going to break your knife. So don't try to catch it. Just let it hit the ground. Okay? Knife safety. Key point.